live from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. Welcome to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Got a lot to talk about today. College football and, of course, yesterday's baseball games. We'll recap those as well as far as the betting was concerned. And we'll also have 3 games on tap to talk about for today as well. So if you're interested in betting on baseball, we're going to follow the line movement on 3 games and kind of give you an idea as to where the pros are going within those situations. So anyway, thank you very much for listening. Like I said, we're coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as on most of your major podcast platforms such as Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, you name it, iHeartRadio. We're there. We're easy to find. We're also on milehighradio.com as well as on Blackjack TV as well too. So anyway, like I said, today we got 3 games to talk about as far as baseball is concerned. And of course, we're going to be talking about the Red Sox against the Rays, the Brewers against the Giants, and the Braves against the Dodgers. Those are the 3 games that we have on tap to talk about. We're going to find the line movement, see which direction it's going, see which way the money's flowing. This will tell us which direction the pros are going. And of course, that's what we're most interested in. And we're also going to be talking about some college football. We're going to bring you up to date, got some notes and ideas on some of the games that are coming up this weekend and some thoughts on those as well. But as usual, one of the first things we do when we get started is we go over situations that happened yesterday as far as betting was concerned, Major League Baseball and National Football League. To start with, let's go to the NFL. The favorites, they went 4-1 yesterday to wrap up the preseason week 3, and that's it. We're done. Ready to start playing the stuff for real coming a week from Thursday on the 9th of September. But only 3-2 against the spread yesterday. The Patriots were a 3.5-point favorite against the Giants, although they did win the game 22-20. They didn't cover on the spread. The only outright upset were the Dolphins. They were 1.5-point dogs, and they beat the Bengals 29-26. The overs went 4-1 on the final day of the preseason, so it kind of started leveling off, and that's what we were trying to talk about a few days ago when we saw that tremendous under number coming in as far as NFL preseason, one as high as 75 and 80% at one point. You know that that's much too high for the norm. And of course, as usual, it started swinging the other way. So it's the real smart guy who was following it, and he says, okay, that's it. That's as far as I think it's going to go. I'm jumping on the overs from now on because that's what's going to be coming next. So that's the story with the NFL. Like I said, the overs went 4-1 on the last day of the preseason. Meanwhile, in Major League Baseball, the A's up plus 133 beat the Yankees 3-1 for the second straight game after the Yankees had that 13-game winning streak. So yesterday we talked about this game because it fit into the category of the swagger theory, as if you're following trends and ideas as far as how far, how long teams will win games, how they will lose game winning and losing streaks in those directions. We told you that when a team comes off of a losing streak and they finally win a game, generally, most of the time, they will come back and win the next game as well, because that's called the swagger theory. They have that swagger. Hey, we finally won a game. We can do it. Let's do it again. So that's kind of the idea, and that's the philosophy behind the swagger theory if you're doing winning and losing streaks. So we kind of brought that to your attention yesterday. I hope if you're into that, I hope you took care of it as well. Also, the favorites lead 8-6 yesterday. And of course, over the season, the favorites are doing very well, almost at 60%, 59.7 to be exact. The favorites are 66% in the month of August, month of August has been absolutely fantastic as far as betting favorites this month. The unders went 7, 6, and 1. They increased their lead to 50% as well. So that's the story on baseball, NFL games. We covered all that. The season's ready to start in a week from Thursday. We're going to start covering it a lot more as we get closer and closer. But because we do have college football season starting up, although it did start, they call it 0 week is what they really refer to it as. You had 3 or 4 games that were on this past weekend, but that's just like like an hors d'oeuvre, before the big games begin. It'll actually begin totally this coming Saturday as well. So we're going to go into some of those thoughts and ideas, give you some ideas that you should be thinking about. So it'll help you to become a better handicapper in that direction. But in the meantime, we're going to take our first break. We do take 3 breaks within the show. Each one is of a 1-minute duration. So if that's the case, we'll be back in the zone in 1 minute. And welcome back. Here we go again. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. We're coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as, like we said, on most of your major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're there as well. So once again, whatever time zone you happen to be in, welcome to the show. We're going to be talking baseball for this segment of the show, and then when we get done, we'll be talking some college football as the season begins this coming Saturday. So let's discuss the money and let's see which way it's flowing. We have 3 games we want to take a look at, kind of let you know how the line movement and how the money is going, which tells us which direction the pros are going. So this way you'll know which way they're going. Now it's up to you to decide whether you should go with them or against them. It's totally up to you. We try to give you those records. We try to give you some data on it. But once again, we're not saying you should, you shouldn't. We leave that up to you. The first game we're talking about is around 7 o'clock. You got the Boston Red Sox, 75-57. Going down to Florida, play the Rays, who are 82-48. Now, this is a 3-game series, and it's really most important. You could almost say crucial for both of these teams. The Rays, well, they lead the American League East by 6 games over the Yankees and 8 games over the Red Sox. Now, in tonight's series opener, the Red Sox come with their right-hander, Nick Pivetta, who's 9-6 with a 4.57 ERA. The Rays come back with their right-hander, Luis Patino. He's 3-3 with a 4.53 ERA. Now, as we look at the line on this game, it opened with Tampa Bay, listed as a minus 125 home favorite on the money line, and Boston, a plus 115 road dog. Now, the pro money is laying the chalk with the red hot Rays. They've won 7 straight games. So now they, according to our thinking, are on a streak. We think that 6 games is the number. Once you get beyond 6 games, you're into a streak. So according to our interpretation, and of course everybody has their own. Some people like it to be 8, some people want it to be 10. We say that 6 is the number for our purposes and our statistical data, the way we do it. So they're into their 8th game now. They're 7 straight, so they now fall into that category. Now the pros, they're on Tampa Bay because they steamed the number up from minus 125 up to minus 135 on the money line. Now, home favorites that are coming off a win are at almost 61% this season. Let me repeat that. Home favorites playing at home. Tampa is a home favorite. They win 61% of the time so far this season. The Rays are 35-14, which is almost 72% when they're home and they're a favorite. Tampa Bay is 7-5 against Boston this season, including 5-1 at home. They do well at home against them, not as well when they're in Boston. Now, we could be looking at a high-scoring game here as well. The total started out at 8.5, with the over being juiced up to minus 120, which means that there's a good possibility that that number will go up from 8.5 up to 9. And then, of course, then the juice drops back down again. And that's how that kind of works. We've talked about that in the past. We'll be talking about that in the future as well. The over is 7-3 in the last 10 times that these two teams played. And the Rays are 72-53 to the over this season so far. So in this first game between the Red Sox and the Rays, a crucial, important game for both teams. The pros and the analytics all point to the Tampa Bay Rays in this game, as well as the over if you're going in that direction. Meanwhile, around 9:45 or so, you have the Milwaukee Brewers, who are 79-52, out to San Francisco to play the Giants, who are 84-46. Now, this is a non-divisional game. You got 2 of the top 3 teams in the National League, and they're going head-to-head against each other. The Brewers are comfortably in first place in the National League Central. They lead the second-place Reds by 8.5 games, so they're in good shape there. Meanwhile, the first-place Giants, they lead the National League West by only 2.5 games over those second-place Dodgers, the pesky Dodgers down in L.A. Now, in tonight's first game, Milwaukee comes in with their ace right-hander, Corbin Burnes. He's 8-4. With a 2.3 ERA, and San Francisco comes in with their right-hander, Johnny Cueto, who's 7-6 with a 3.73 ERA. Now, as we look at this line, it opened with the Brewers a minus 130 road favorite, and the Giants at home a plus 120 home dog. Now, because of the situation, two teams is doing as well as they are, the public, that's kind of split down the middle. Tickets that are coming in on this game are just about 50-50, 55-45 in either direction. The public is really not sure which way they want to go on this one because these are two pretty well evenly matched teams. They see 2 great teams playing against each other, and they don't know who to take. But, of course, as usual, the pros, they have no problem at all. They're leaning with the Brewers. We've seen Milwaukee move up from being that minus 130 to being a minus 140 on the money line. Now, short road favorites, which Milwaukee is, that's being a minus 150 or more off of a win, are at almost 61% this season. They're coming off of a win, and they are a road favorite. When 2 teams that are this well qualified, when they play against each other, both win percentages of 550 or more, the favorite wins 62% of the time. Let me just go over that once again. When you have 2 really great teams, when they play against each other, they both have win percentages of 0.550 or more. The favorite is at 62% so far this season. Milwaukee also has value because they're a favorite with a low total. The total in this game is 7.5. Now, the theory behind that is very simple. The fewer amount of runs scored, the more likely they're going to be coming from the better team that's being played. So runs could be at a premium in this particular game. The total is 7.5, and the under is juiced to minus 115, which means that if the juice goes to 120 or a little more over that, it'll more than likely bring that number down from 7.5 down to 7. So in this game between Milwaukee and San Francisco, pros on the Milwaukee Brewers. The general public, they're mixed. They can go either way. Both teams are really playing well. They're at the top of their leagues. Anything can happen. They don't know which way to go. But the pros, no problem. They are with the Brewers and the under. And the first game we looked at was the Red Sox against Tampa. And that game, the pros are on the Tampa Rays and also on the over in that particular game. We have one more game to talk about, and that's around 10 o'clock between the Atlanta Braves and those pesky Los Angeles Dodgers. So we're going to be coming back after our second break, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Bring you up to date as to how this little system or method of betting on or against the pros is concerned. So just as usual, as we always say, each break is of 1 minute duration. So if that is the situation, we will be back in 60 seconds. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. You're in the zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being in the zone. Coming to you live from the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Yes, we are right here on I-95, as well as most of your podcast platforms, such as Spotify or Google or Apple Podcasts. We're just about anywhere to be found. And if you want to get a hold of us, it's very simple. Just send an email. Send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. That's the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. Now, in case you tuned in a little late, let's go with the first two games we talked about on the baseball menu for tonight. The Red Sox against the Tampa Rays. The pros are on the Tampa Rays and on the over in that game. And in the game between the Brewers and the Giants, two evenly matched top teams, undecided as far as the general public is concerned, the pros are on the Milwaukee Brewers, and they think it's going to be a low-scoring game, so they're on the under in this game. And finally, at around 10 o'clock or so, you got the Atlanta Braves, 70-59, traveling out to Los Angeles to play the Dodgers at 82-49. Now, if the postseason were to start today, right now, both of these non-division opponents would definitely be in at this time. The Braves, they're in first place in the National League East. They're leading the Phillies, who are in second place, by 4.5 games. Meanwhile, the Dodgers, their first wild card spot is now set, and they're only trailing the Giants by 2.5 games. And of course, the Giants are playing a tough team in the Brewers today. So in tonight's series opener, Atlanta comes back with their lefty, Drew Smiley, who's 9-3 with a 4.54 ERA. And the Dodgers come back with their left-hander, Julio Urias, who's 14-3. Great season, 3.17 ERA. So as we look at the line in this game, it opened with the Dodgers as a minus 180 home favorite, and the Braves a plus 165 road dog. Now, the pros aren't outsmarting themselves in this one. They're backing the better team at home with the starting pitching advantage that the Dodgers have. They steamed the Dodgers up from minus 180 to minus 190 on the money line. Now, keep this in mind. Non-division home favorites are almost at 62% this season. So they're winning roughly 13 units if you're into units. And units, of course, is just a simple way to break down whether you're betting $10 or whether you're betting $10,000. Whatever that number, that multiple is, it's 13 times that is where you'd be sitting right now. The Dodgers are 82-46 as a favorite. They're 43-23 at home. We could also be looking at a low-scoring game here, too. The total is 9, but the under is juiced at minus 115, which means there's a possible drop down to 8.5. So in this game between the Braves and the Dodgers, pros heavily in on the Dodgers. If you like the Dodgers in this game, you're going to be laying some heavy minus 190, maybe even up into the 200s as far as the juice is concerned. So once again, to recap the 3 games we talked about, the Red Sox against the Tampa Rays, the pros are on the Tampa Rays, and they're also on the over in this game. Between the Brewers and the Giants, the pros are on the Brewers. They are on the under in this game. And the Atlanta Braves against the Los Angeles Dodgers, the pros are on the Dodgers, and they're also on the under in this game as well. So those are the 3 games that are on tap for tonight. Kind of give you an idea now as to how this little system or method, whatever you want to call it, is going along. Yesterday, we had 3 plays. We had Tampa against Baltimore, and Tampa won. We had the Red Sox against Cleveland. That was a loser. And we had the Cubs and the White Sox. We had the White Sox in this game. That was a winner. So yesterday, we had 3 plays. We had 2 winners and 1 loser. The day before that, we had 3 plays. We had 2 losers, 1 winner. The day before that, 3 plays, 2 winners, 1 loser. The day before that, just to give you one more day to kind of finish off the week, we had 3 plays, 2 wins, and 1 loser. So you kind of get an idea as to how everything seems to be going. So far, within the month of August, this system is at 59% so far. If you would have been playing it at this point in time, you would have had 73 plays and you would have 43 wins at that number. So that's the story. You can follow them and say go with them, or you can go against them or not bet the games at all. That's totally up to you. We just give you that opportunity so that you can decide what it is you want to do. You might be very happy with whatever system you're using right now, so just tweak it a little bit. Maybe when you're looking at that Brewers game, which seems to be very, very close as far as who wants what, who wants whom, okay, you take a look at that and you find out, well, let's see, I'm kind of leaning to Milwaukee, or I'm leaning towards the Giants. I'm not sure. The pros definitely in on Milwaukee. That may sway you in their direction or may sway you against them, depending on how you feel about it. So that's the story on baseball. Let's take our final break. Let's get that out of the way. And when we come back, we'll be talking college football, some notes and ideas for the upcoming season that's starting up this coming weekend. So we'll be back in the zone in 60 seconds. And welcome back. Here we go again. We're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo coming to you live from the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms such as Apple, Spotify, Google, you name it. We're on most of them as well. So we talked about baseball for a good part of the show. Now let's switch gears now and talk about college football, because that's going to be coming at you full steam ahead this coming weekend. This past weekend was like I said, like an hors d'oeuvre. You had a little taste of it. You had that Illinois-Nebraska game, which was kind of an upset by Illinois on that game. The other two games, well, they were blowouts. There was no problem there whatsoever, including my old alma mater, the University of Hawaii. They really got plastered this past weekend. But, there's a simple question out there. And if you're a Georgia fan, you've been asking yourselves this pretty much for your entire life. If not now, if not this year, then when? Okay, that's the story. So let's take a step back. I can't speak for the average Georgia fan, but I don't know what this person feels about the program right now. It's a program that's rich in just about everything that you need to be a dominant team in college football. A program that has it's kind of out recruited every school in college football over the past 4 seasons, including that team down the road down in Alabama. But, if I were a Georgia fan and not just a gambler or a player sitting on an array of Bulldogs future tickets, I'll get to those. I would feel good about this team. I really would. Not overly confident, but feeling good. History says feeling any other emotion might be not a good thing to do. So things aren't perfect. The injury bug is out there, and Georgia's tight end Darnell Washington and their defensive back Tyke Smith, Arik Gilbert, the team's star offseason acquisition, is currently not with the team because of personal reasons. So as good as they looked on paper before things started going wrong, these things started to take place. Now, these issues that are here are real, but elite teams can usually overcome these types of issues. And to me, Georgia is not only an elite team, but the best team in college football. Now, I like Georgia to win the national title. Yes, I do. The Bulldogs are currently plus 700, okay, on the money line. I bet them to win the SEC, which is currently at plus 200. I'd like to see them go over and over 10.5, okay? Now, yeah, Georgia is a 3-point dog against Clemson this week and what could wind up being the best game of the college football season. We talked about that earlier. The talent across both teams is every position is Very spectacular. And while quarterback has always been a mixed bag, Daniels has the gifts to change that. So the narrative, of course, says otherwise. Unfair or not, Georgia has long been regarded as a resource rich team, but they're not capable of winning at the sport despite so many advantages, and they're so close so many times. So, given the historic and the most absurd run of Alabama, okay, in that conference, it kind of feels a little unfair to kind of judge them that way. But with Nick Saban's team having a huge makeover. They lost a lot of guys to the NFL this past year. No, this has to be the year because the talent is there at Georgia. The schedule outside of this first game is mighty conducive. So I'm going to ask that question once again. If not now, then when? Okay. That's the whole story as far as Georgia's concerned. It's the biggest game of the football season. Clemson's a 3-point favorite. The over under is 51.5. Clemson is rated number 3. Georgia rated number 5 because we know who's number 1. Okay. No question there. So plain and simple. Now, it likely won't end up being the most important game of the year, but I'll reserve that for when they have the conference games later on. To me, what I'm intrigued mostly starts with the quarterbacks. DJ Ugalele might have one of the biggest arms the sport has ever seen. He looked fabulous in those small doses last year. JT Daniels, while he's limited to a start this year because of injury, he closed strong, seems poised to take off for another great season, okay? And another element to watch will be return of Clemson's wideout, Justin Ross, who was one of the best offensive players in football last year before that injury cost him some problems. On the topic of Clemson, last season was the first time in 4 years, the Tigers didn't have a winning record against the spread, which is what we're most important with. That's what we care about. Who cares about who won or lost? We have to know who is beating the spread. So I've made it clear. I believe Clemson will start 0-1 in that category. I kind of see Georgia winning that game against Clemson. So there's more football talk that we'll have as we go along. That's it to kind of wet your whistle a little bit about the games coming up this weekend. We'll cover some more games as well. We're going to take a look at, of course, Alabama is going to be playing Miami. That should be a good game. Got Wisconsin against Penn State, and you have Iowa against Indiana. Texas is up against Louisiana Lafayette. And, of course, you got Ohio State, Minnesota, Notre Dame, and Florida State. So those are games that we'll be covering as the week goes on and we get closer to Saturday. So that's the story of college football as far as Alabama is concerned, as far as Georgia is concerned, Clemson. We know Alabama is going to be number 1. We know Georgia is going to be up there, but hopefully some of those injuries won't come back and bite them, as they say, but we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on them. But 3 points, hey, with 3 points in your pocket, it may not be a bad idea to go that way. But again, we're just telling you about it, and we leave that decision totally up to you. Now to cover the 3 games we talked about today in baseball, the first game is the Red Sox against the Rays. The pros are on the Rays. The Brewers against the Giants. The pros are on the Brewers. And the Braves against the Dodgers. The pros in that game are on the Los Angeles Dodgers. So that's the story as far as that's concerned. Once again, it's Monday. It's the start of a new week. Welcome to the show. We're going to be here every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So until tomorrow at the same time, I'm Chris Pardo. Have a great, great Monday. And if you're doing any betting today, I hope you have a profitable day as well. So that's the story. You'll be back again tomorrow right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms as well. So until tomorrow, have a great Monday. And like I said, if you're betting on games today, I hope you have a profitable Monday as well. So until tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody.